All right, season number 2 of the AVP League is in the books. What did we think? Wrapping up a couple of awesome weekends of beach volleyball, starting on Manhattan Beach just a couple of short weeks ago, ending on the shores of Oak Street Beach in downtown Chicago. We had the Manhattan Beach Open. We had the Chicago Championships for AVP League season number 2. So we got a lot to get to here today. We're going to start with the AVP League season number 2 as a whole, finishing with the AVP League Cup, won by the Palm Beach Passion. The combined results of Brandie, Mel, Phil Dalhausser, Trevor Crabb, finishing the season going 12-4 and taking the cup for season number 2. The cup not existing in season number 1 as it did here in season number 2. The AVP listened to the people who had an issue with Andy Benesh and Miles Partain playing a nearly perfect first season and not winning the whole thing. They decided to split the thing into 2. The AVP League Cup regular season standings. Think English Premier League football. If you win the regular season, you win the whole thing. Supposedly, in theory, makes every single match all that more important as there's no playoffs at the end of the season. Did it do that? Well, we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. Coming in a close second place was the Upstarts. At the beginning of the season, I said they were the team with the highest ceiling. That's the LA launch. Hagen Smith, Logan Weber, Therese Cannon, Megan Kraft. Nobody did more this season to raise their profile than Hagen Smith. Hagen playing an excellent season, service, pressure, digging all over the place. That heavy arm swing ended up in a second place in the AVP League Cup. Also ended up in second place in the AVP League Championships. More on that in a minute. Down from there, the Dallas Stream 8-8, and we go down from there. As far as the Manhattan Beach Open goes, Chase Budinger and Miles Evans, congratulations to Chase and Miles for getting their names on the pier for the first time. Long deserved for a guy in Chase Budinger who has been an excellent advocate of the sport since leaving the hardwood and coming out to the sand and taking on beach volleyball as his second professional sport. Budinger and Evans beat Trevor Crabb and Phil Dalhausser in the Manhattan Beach Open Finals. It was the first Manhattan Beach Open win for Chase. It was the first AVP win for Miles Evans. They beat Trev and Phil twice in the tournament, once in the winner's bracket on Saturday and then again in the finals on Sunday. Us all thinking at the time it was the last time we would see Phil to Manhattan Beach Open. Well, not so fast. Turns out Phil announcing a few days later between Manhattan and the Chicago Championships that he is unretiring. Him and his wife Jen Dalhausser making the decision to come back for another season. Supposedly, Madison McKibben going to get his head shaved as part of that agreement. Not sure how that played out. We'll see what Madison has to say. So a great performance by Chase and Miles. Taylor and Taylor were right there. Ended up losing to Trevor and Phil in the semifinals. But Chase and Miles put together just a perfect tournament. I had in the beginning, before the tournament started, they were my favorites to win the whole thing, and they did it. They've been the second best team in the USA now going on 2-3 years. They're still there, and I think they're only getting better, Chase and Miles. Miles Evans has gone from a guy that people underappreciated and underrespected, I think, to a guy that has really earned and worked for and earned the respect of the beach volleyball community as a hardworking defender, a guy that can dig balls, a guy that can side out effectively. They play with a good tempo, a good fun tempo, and behind the block of Chase Budinger, it's enough to get their names on the pier. Congratulations to Chase and Miles for a spectacular run at the Manhattan Beach Open and getting their names on the pier. TKN, Taryn Brasher, Kristen Nuss beat Therese Cannon and Megan Kraft in the finals, 15-21, 21-18, 15-18. Back-to-back Manhattan Beach Opens for TKN. They did not play in 2023. They took 2/5 in 2021 and 2022. Going back to what we said in the offseason about 8-9 months ago, who's the next queens of the pier? Right now, TKN making a pretty good case. It's going to be them for the foreseeable future. Some storylines from the Manhattan Beach Open. We talked about it going into it. Evan Corey partnered up with Triborn, gets hurt in Seaside the week before. Triborn already announcing that it was going to be his last Manhattan Beach Open. So who does Tri pull in for an injury sub? None other than Nick Lucena. Nick hadn't played in an AVP match in, boy, at this point, 3 years now since him and Phil played their final matches in 2021, somewhere in there, 4 or 5 years since Nick had played an AVP League match at the highest level. Nick Lucena subs in for Triborn, and they played excellent. They made their way through the winner's bracket, got knocked down to the loser's bracket, ended up facing none other than Allison and Alvarol. A win and move on, a lose and go home forever for Tri and Alisson. That one won by Tri-born Nick Lucena, 21-18, 21-17. We say goodbye to the Woolly Mammoth for all time, one of the greats of the game internationally, and then finishing his career on the AVP, putting together some excellent performances, winning a few contenders events with Evan Corey last season. Alisson saying goodbye, at least in theory. We know how beach volleyball goes with retirements. Tri and Nick moving on in the losers bracket. And who do they face? None other than Trevor Crabb and Phil Dalhausser. They lost to Chase and Miles in the winners bracket, get bumped down to the losers bracket late Saturday afternoon as the sun's setting on Manhattan Beach. And Tri-born plays his last match on the AVP. Sad to see 21-19, 22-20, Crabb and Dalhausser knockout Born and Lucena. That was an awesome match. I suggest you go back on AVP's YouTube and check that one out. That one emotional, that one fiery. Tri and Nick were in both those sets, and then AVP giving Tri the send-off that he deserved after an excellent career in beach volleyball, both on the AVP and internationally. Just a spectacular, spectacular ceremony afterwards for Tri-born, commemorating him. You get the picture with him, the McKibbins, Taylor, Trevor, all the Hawaiian boys. Johnny Hayden was there to send Tri off coaching in the box for Tri and Nick all tournament long. So just an awesome ceremony there. So I suggest you go back and watch that. If you're a volleyball historian, if you're a volleyball sentimentalist like I am, that matchup, the losers bracket matchup, Crabb Dalhausser, Born Lucena, that one, a must watch. Go back, check that one out. Then finally, we get to the winners bracket, the finals, Manhattan Beach Open, Budinger Evans, Crabb Dalhausser. At the time, we're thinking it's Phil's last match at the Manhattan Beach Open. Budinger and Evans beat Crabb Dalhausser 21-19, 21-16. Honestly, Crabb and Dalhausser a bit overmatched in that all the way through. They had gone 3 sets with Budinger and Evans earlier on Saturday in the winners bracket. This one a 2-setter, and really it seemed in watching it like Trevor and Phil had to be perfect, and they just weren't quite perfect. And Chase and Miles put together an awesome performance, an awesome weekend, and as we said, won the Manhattan Beach Open. Phil's back for another year, so the stakes in Chicago, I don't want to say a little bit less high, but certainly a little less meaningful, getting ready for that tearful goodbye to Phil whenever it happens, Saturday or Sunday. Not to be. We're going to push that back at least one more year. Chicago League, AVP League Championships, everybody coming back for next season, at least in theory. Let's start on Saturday. Let's go through all the games because there were some good ones, there were some great ones, and some surprises. We'll give out some awards at the end of this, so make sure you stick around. Saturday, the first matchup, 6-seeded Devin Newberry, Jeannie Urango taking on Therese Cannon and Megan Kraft. I had Therese and Megan as a good odds, I would say like a good value pick to win the whole thing. Therese and Megan, 15-11, 15-11, they lose to Devin and Gina. Back-to-back Urango aces in that second set ended up sealing the deal for Newberry and Urango. Particularly impressive given that Devin and Gina had only played 1 week before that, only 1 week of league play. Devin subbing in for the injured Tony Rodriguez, so only getting 1 week of league play with her partner Gina Urango. Devin balled out at the net, getting some blocks. Gina Urango, just an absolute pleasure to watch as a beach volleyball fan. We love this team. We love these two. And they come up with a big upset. In my mind, the upset of the weekend, upsetting the 3-seeded Therese Cannon and Megan Kraft, who were never really in this one, 15-11, 15-11. We go to women's quarterfinal matchup number 2, Saturday morning. It was on YouTube. Lexi Denaburg, Julia Donlin taking on the 5-seeded Kelly Cheng and Molly Shaw. A straight set victory for the 4-seed, Lexi and Julia, 18-16, 15-12. Storyline from this one for me, keep an eye on the partnership of Kelly Cheng and Molly Shaw. These two got together early in the 2025 season after we found out that Sarah Hughes had an injury. Kelly and Sarah had made it to the 2024 Olympics in Paris together. One would have assumed at the time that they were going to be staying together for the 2025 season, and maybe they would have had it not been for an injury for Sarah Hughes. But in the fallout from that, Kelly picking up Molly Shaw, announcing that partnership, which at the time we thought was temporary. And then only a few months later, Sarah Hughes announcing a new partnership of her own with indoor star from Nebraska, Allie Batenhorst. So Kelly and Sarah apparently going their separate ways for the second time in their careers. Kelly picking up Molly Shaw, and at the time, people thinking, wow, this is a partnership that has a chance to be explosive. Molly won 3 medals, 1 of each color, gold, silver, and bronze on the Beach Pro Tour Challenge events at the end of the 2024 season. So the hype on Molly Shaw was strong, and it continues to be. But the partnership hasn't had the success that they would have hoped it had. And coming into the league championships as a 5 seed shows them maybe a spot that they weren't expecting to be, probably top 3. I think a lot of people would have had them after the partnership was announced. They come in as a 5 seed, and they lose in straight sets to the 4 seed, 18, 16, 15, 12. Kelly and Molly moving on. So that's a partnership I would suggest you keep an eye on as we start to turn our attention to the 2026 season. And don't forget Olympic qualification for 2028 in LA, which is top of mind for all these players being in their backyards in Los Angeles. League qualification or Olympic qualification for that starting in the winter of 2026 into 2027. So probably be January timeframe, probably in Doha, January 2027. So now we're only about 14, 15 months away from Olympic qualification starting. So if you're still testing out partners, if you're still trying to figure out who you're going to make that run in 2028 with, now would be the time, if you don't believe in a partnership, to move on and test something out in 2026 to get ready for qualification in 2027. So keep your eyes. I'm not saying anything that I do know or don't know, but keep your eye on that partnership. Wouldn't be expect to see those two go their separate ways. 2 excellent players there, but the partnership not producing the results that you might expect. We'll move on to men's quarterfinal, number 1. The 6-seeded Schalk and James Shaw taking on Taylor Crabb and Taylor Sander, the 3 seed. And no team more explosive, no team funner to watch than the Taylors on the Beach Pro Tour. And this one went the distance, the full 3 sets. Cayman James dropping the first set 11-15. Cayman James dropping the first set 11-15. Cayman James taking the second set 15-8. So we're going to a 3rd set. This 3rd set started off as a side-out game, and I want to take you through it because this 3rd set was important to look back. Because when you look at the result, you think, oh, the Taylors got upset. Wow, good upset win for Cayman James. And that's certainly the case, but to tell the whole story, you need to dig in a little closer to what that 3rd set looked like. 3-3 3rd set. Sander serves it out, which, as we know, happens. He serves aggressively. It's kind of ace-or-out mentality for the indoor player. Come out to the beach. So Sander serves it out. That makes it 4-3. Then Came with an excellent dig and a kill to make it 5-3. Came played really well, and Came's been playing really well. So if you had kind of lost track of Came Schalk after that failed partnership with Tri-Born for a couple years and that failed run at the 2024 Olympics in Paris, he partnered up with James Shaw now a year and a half ago, and the two of them had some excellent success. Came's playing well. All right, so now it's 5-3 3rd set. So right about now, the commentary, by the way, has been excellent throughout the championships. You had Kevin Barnett, Rich Lamborn, Casey Patterson, Cam Irwin, some combination of the 3 or 4 of them, 1 on the sidelines, 2 in the booth, spectacular all weekend. Kevin Barnett makes a comment about how with sets to 15, how quickly a set can get away from you. So now we're in the 3rd set. It's 5-3, Cayman James, and it was just 3-3 just seconds ago. Another Came, dig, and kill makes it 6-3. Then Taylor Crabb sides out with that wrist-away cutty, that beautiful wrist-away cutty we've seen from Taylor Crabb time and time again. So now we're 4-6. So seemingly the tide has been stemmed by Taylor Crabb. So now it's 4-6, and we have an opportunity now at the service line. James Shaw gets served at. Excellent pass. Excellent set by Came. James rips one cross that makes it now 7-4. James then comes back to the service line again. Nobody better in 2025 from the service line on the men's side than James Shaw, and he shows why here. He serves at Taylor Sander, and it's an ace, 8-4. Serves another one, this one at Taylor Crabb. Might as well have been an ace. Taylor Crabb with an overpass here. Came in, James able to put it away. Now 9-4, and then James just barely clips the line on a net trickle line ace on Taylor Crabb's line to make it 10-4, and that was it. So what seconds ago was a 3-3 match in the 3rd set, due to some excellent service pressure by James Shaw, it's now 10-4, and that really sealed the deal for Taylor and Taylor. Side-out game from there. James Shaw ended up winning that 3rd set 15-9. So one of the things about these sets to 15 is that a set can get away from you very, very quickly. Kevin Barnett mentioned it when the score was 5-3. The score had just been 3-3. 2 seconds later, you blink, and it's 10-4, and Cam and James are moving on to the semifinals. The sets to 15 is something I would love to see them figure out, because the story is a 3-set matchup, 21-21-15, doesn't fit comfortably in an hour-long time slot for television. And that is certainly true. The alternative side of that is that a 2-set blowout, like a 15-10, 15-9, takes up a half an hour of your hour-long window, and now you have the commentators vamping for a half an hour to get to the next match, which isn't good for anybody. So can we figure out a way to get back to the 21-21-15 and still figure out a way to make that TV deal work, and get back to what a volleyball purist would say is conventional pure volleyball 21-21-15. You know me, I haven't been terribly critical of the AVP so far. I've been very supportive of what they've been trying to do here over the course of the last now 13 months of AVP League. People forget that we've gotten 2 seasons and basically 1 calendar year here, with them starting after the 2024 Olympics in Paris. So after 1 year and 2 seasons of the AVP, nobody's been more supportive than me. That said, the sets to 15, in my mind, I don't say eliminates, but it reduces the drama, reduces the possibility of you having one of those late set pushes. And in the, which we're going to get to in a minute, in the men's and women's semifinals on Saturday morning, semifinals number 2, both of them's going to extra points, either in the second or third set. And it's those crunch times. It's 17-17, 18-18, 17-18, 18-19. And I don't know what it is about those numbers, but something about those numbers makes volleyball better. And I think you need to get back to 21-21-15 for the league, just from a competitive standpoint, from a viewership standpoint, from a robustly filling an hour of volleyball content standpoint. I know you might go over occasionally. You're going to need to figure that out. Plenty of sports have unknown durations. Football, basketball, baseball. We've seen baseball go from 3.5 to 2.5 hours. They're fitting in TV windows somehow. So I think the AVP needs to look long and hard at moving it back to 21-21-15. I think that would appease some of the volleyball purists that have been all over their case this season. And I think that would be a small thing that they can do to increase the watchability, increase the entertainment factor of some of these volleyball matches. This final third set that we're talking about here between Cam, James, Taylor, and Taylor, 3-3, and then before you know it, 10-4, and the set's over. The last 5 points don't even really matter because the set's over. Nobody's coming back from 10-4 in a set to 15. 10-4 to 21, it's a different story. That one, they could come back. Of course, all these things in a vacuum, you know, being a little hyperbolic, but I do think getting to 21-21-15 would be a huge step for the AVP League as we start to turn our attention to season number 3. We'll go to men's quarterfinal number 2. The final quarterfinal on YouTube on Saturday afternoon. Hagen Smith, Logan Weber, the 4 seed, taking on the 5 seed, Chase Budinger, Miles Evans. I don't want to call it a Manhattan Beach hangover, but was Manhattan Beach more important, or was the quarterfinal AVP League champs more important to Chase Budinger, Miles Evans? I bet you they're both important to him. This one went to Smith and Weber. 19-17 first set, 15-13 second set, Smith and Weber. Hagen Smith, Logan Weber moving on to the semifinals to take on Andy Benesh and Miles Partain, the number 1 seed overall. Chase and Miles headed home, but headed home knowing they got the name on the plaque 2 weeks ago. Just a pretty decent consolation, I would say, for anybody, for any beach volleyball player, knowing that a couple weeks ago you were on top of the beach volleyball world at the granddaddy of them all. We go to women's semifinal number 1. This one on the CW Saturday afternoon. The number 2 seeded overall, the Canadians, Brandie Wilkerson, Melissa Humana Paradis, taking on Jeannie Urango and Devin Newberry. Their second match of the day. They played in that first women's quarterfinal, if you remember, beating Therese Cannon and Megan Kraft. Brandie Mel defeat Urango Newberry pretty handily, I would say, in this one, 15-9, 15-12. They'll move on to the finals. Men's semifinal number 1, Trevor Crabb and Phil Dalhausser taking on Cam Schalk and James Shaw. Crabb, Dalhausser, winning the first set 15-7, winning the second set 15-10. Phil, 5 aces in this match, ending that second set on a 7-2 run. Cam and James never really in this one. Trevor and Phil put their foots on the throat of Cam and James and said, hey, we're moving on to the finals. We are going to another finals. We were in Manhattan Beach Open finals 2 weeks ago. We're going to the AVP League Championship finals in Chicago Sunday afternoon on CBS. Let's head to Sunday, and in my mind, the best two matches of the entire weekend came in the morning session on YouTube, semifinal number 2, both men's and women's. The first one, men's semifinal number 2, 4-seeded, Hagen Smith, Logan Webber taking on Andy Benesh and Miles Partain. Nobody has been better than Andy Benesh and Miles Partain over the course of the last, going back to 2020, end of 2022 now, so over the course of the last 3 full years at this point, nobody's been better than Andy Benesh and Miles Partain in the United States. There was a stretch there in Olympic qualification where they won a medal of each color on the Beach Pro Tour, beating the Norwegians at one point, Mol and Sarum. Congratulations to them, by the way, for winning in Hamburg. They're back on top of the volleyball world for the moment. But Andy Benesh and Miles Partain, nobody been better. They're the 1-seeded overall. They didn't lose much over the course of the regular season. Smith Webber come in there as the 4-seed, pretty heavy underdogs. And what does Smith and Webber do? Smith and Webber dropped the first set, 10-15. Andy Benesh and Miles Partain doing what they do best, siding out, providing good service pressure from the serve of Andy Benesh. Miles Partain, a wizard with that arm swing, a wizard with the set, and they win that first set 15-10. Smith and Webber come back in that second set, valiantly fight, and end up winning that one 15-13. So we move to a third set. Smith Webber up 9-8 over Andy Benesh, Miles Partain. They side out. Andy Benesh with a missed swing, and then Partain gets a free ball at the net, and just something you'll never see again. Miles Partain at the net, free ball right at the net, basically just a straight down and the rally, and he spatches it just wide. And so now you blinked. Smith and Webber were up 9-8, and then a side out, a miss, and a miss makes it 12-8. It's a 3-0 run there for Smith and Webber to make it 12-8 in the third set, and you're thinking, wow. Smith and Webber now can just side out to a victory. So a very uncharacteristic 3 points there for Benesh and Partain, a couple of misses. And then the side out by Smith and Webber, it's a 3-0 run, and all of a sudden it's 12-8, and Smith and Webber can just side out to a win. You're thinking, wow, that changed quickly. That changed on a dime in a crucial third set, men's semifinal number 2 Saturday morning. Then what happens? You get a Logan service error, easy for me to say. That makes it 12-9. And Andy Benesh block, because that's what he does, and Andy Benesh ace. So again, the service pressure of Andy Benesh setting the tone here. He does it with a block, he does it with an ace, and then who next? Miles Partain gets the dig and kill. Logan misses the ball, and now it's 13-12. Now a 5-0 run for Benesh and Partain, and they've taken the lead again at 13-12. So now it's a half-point lead for the Olympians, for the 1-seeded overall, for the best team in the United States, and they got a half-point lead at 13-12. Then, Andy Benesh back at the service line. It's a service error to make it 13-13. The next 8 points is a critical must-go back and watch for any beach volleyball fan. They trade side-outs. They trade aces. You have 2 of the filthiest Hagen Smith swings you'll ever see. A bad set from Logan Webber puts him at like the 12-foot line, and Hagen says, I'm going to swing anyways. He comes in for the approach, has to take a step back, jumps, pops, deep seam, strong kill there by Hagen Smith. Next play, sets a little better. Hagen does it again, gets the kill. Then you have one of the prettiest, just absolutely most gorgeous, left arm dig on a ridiculous serve. Andy Benesh gets the beautiful left arm dig. Smith and Webber take the half-point lead. Logan Webber wins it with a deep seam ace, and Smith and Webber are moving on to the finals. Andy Benesh and Miles Partain headed home, surprisingly. So if you want to go back and watch that third set of that men's semifinal number 2, I strongly suggest it. Smith Webber just not refusing to fold under the pressure of the best team in America, of a team that makes very few mistakes. And the only mistakes they made were way back when it was 12-8, 9-8, and they made a few mistakes there, and that set the tone. And then Benesh Partain went on a run, and then they traded points, and ultimately it was a Logan ace that won the whole thing. Benesh Partain played great. Smith and Webber played better in that semifinals. Just an excellent semifinals there on the men's side for Smith and Webber. Let's go to Sunday, women's semifinal number 2. It's the 4-seeded Denaburg and Donlin taking on the number 1 seeded overall TKN, Taryn Brasher, and Kristen Nuss. Brasher, Nuss, not having to play on Saturday. They get to bye all the way into Sunday, similarly to Benesh and Partain for being the 1 seeded overall. First set, TKN with an 8-5 lead. Then you have a really interesting play. I'll insert that here in the video so you can see that. 8-5 TKN. You get a little jump bump tempo set from Taryn Brasher. Just puts Kristen Nuss right out there for the spring bounce, and usually it's just a jumbo deep corner. Gotcha. See you later. And Julia, who was out there kind of respecting the option ball of Taryn Brasher, has to go pin to pin all the way over. Doesn't have the height. Doesn't need the height. Just run, jump, block over the head of Kristen Nuss for the point. And it was at that moment you started to feel like Denaburg and Donlin might have something. So now it's 8-6 TKN. TKN goes on to win that first set 15-12. So you think maybe there wasn't any momentum there. But that was a play in my mind that gave Denaburg and Donlin some confidence. Gave them some confidence that, hey, we can do this thing. Second set, TKN up again 13-12. Lexi gets a dig. Julia absolutely detonates on a ball. Bounces one to tie it up at 13 apiece. Then we head into extra points. It gets to 17-17. Lexi has an error. That makes it 18-17 TKN, and we have our first match point for TKN. They get this next point, and they are in the finals to take on, sorry, lost my track there, to take on Brandie and Mel in the finals. So TKN has a match point here at 18-17, and Kristen Nuss lines up, gets the serve, good pass by Taryn, and Kristen Nuss just goes with that baby line we've seen so many times, and that thing goes about 2 inches wide. You are shocked to see Kristen Nuss hit a ball out, which is unfair because everybody hits balls out, and Kristen Nuss, you just don't expect her to. This baby line goes wide. It's now 18-18. Julia gets a block touch. Lexi gets a dig. Julia gets deep middle, 19-18. Second set goes to Denaburg and Donlin, 20-18. So we go to the third set now. We split first 2 sets. We go to a third set. 11-9. Lexi and Julia have a lead, but it's been a back and forth, kind of a side-out match so far. Lexi and Julia taking advantage of a couple to get that 2-point lead, 11-9. Lexi sides out with this beautiful wrist away to make it 12-9. Then you have something very strange happen, something you never see happen. They serve deep seam at TKN. And actually, you know what? It wasn't even seam. They serve at Taryn Brasher. They serve right side at Taryn Brasher. And what does Kristen Nuss do? Comes all the way across and takes that pass. That puts them out of system. Ultimately results in a Julia knuckle waterfall over the block of Taryn Brasher to make it 13-9. And it was at that moment you said, wow, TKN just doesn't have it today. That's something you don't ever see between the two of them. A miscommunication on the serve. Kristen Nuss taken one she probably wishes she hadn't from Taryn Brasher on the serve. And it's a 13-9. Julia aces it at Kristen Nuss, 14-9. And then Julia gets a huge monster block to seal the deal and send them to the finals at 15-9. And TKN's going home. So you have your 2-1 seeds, Andy Benesh, Partain, Taryn Brasher, Kristen Nuss, both losing in their semifinals. They played one match. They got a bye directly into the semifinals on Sunday, and both teams lost. So you have both 1 seeds headed home and 2 4 seeds headed to the finals in Chicago. So we go to Sunday, the women's finals. Women's finals is first. Denaburg, Donlin, Brandie, Mel. This one, never particularly close. 15-10, 15-10. It was 13-6 at one point in that second set before Brandie and Mel went on a little bit of a run after a late timeout. This one, just chalk this one up to somebody having a terrible game. Melissa had an absolutely terrible game, and I think she'd probably tell you that. Brandie wasn't great either, but Melissa couldn't pass. Melissa couldn't side out. Errors, shanked passes, serve-receive game was rough. Melissa's one of the greatest players, one of the best defenders in the world. So don't get used to seeing Mel have a terrible game like that, but it was a terrible game by Mel that let Lexi and Julia win the championships. The 4-seeded Lexi and Julia, Brooklyn Blaze, winning the championships on the women's side, taking the ship, Lexi, Julia. First finals appearance for them as a partnership, relatively new partnership. I think they got together kind of last fall, so maybe just over a year ago or just under a year ago for Lexi and Julia. 2 players that, in my mind, have become some of the funnest to watch on the women's side. Probably the funnest women's team to watch at the moment, Lexi and Julia. First of all, I love a split blocking team. And this is a pure split blocking team. You don't see that very often in professional beach volleyball anymore. And I think Rich at one point said it's because people don't have the tools to do it. Lexi and Julia had the tools to do it. They can both block. They can put up a formidable block. They can both dig a ball. They both are very good defenders. And most importantly, they're both quick and explosive, which makes that option game just absolutely brutal to defend as seen there by TKN, as seen there by Brandie and Mel. Lexi and Julia beating the two best teams on the AVP, and beating two of the top, what do you want to call them, top 4 or 5 teams in the world in Mel and Brandie and TKN there over the course of like an 8-hour stretch for Lexi and Julia. Just an amazing stretch, phenomenal stretch by Lexi and Julia, telling the world we have arrived. And I would say that puts Lexi and Julia in kind of a rarefied air on the women's side in the United States. TKN still very formidably sitting in that first spot, and I think it's going to be a long time before somebody can take that from them. Going into the season, I think we thought that Kelly and Molly had a chance at the 2 spot. Therese and Megan had a chance at the 2 spot. I think right now we can say pretty comfortably that is flip-flopped, and Therese and Megan are the second best team on the women's side in the United States. And I think Lexi and Julia just put themselves very, very firmly in the conversation for third best team in the United States. And for at least this weekend, they were the best team in the United States and one of the best teams in the world, beating 2 of the top 5 best teams in the world, Mel and Brandie and TKN. Congratulations to Lexi and Julia, an awesome run, an awesome season, and again, probably my favorite team to watch on the women's side. Explosive split blocking, heavy swings, ability to bounce a ball, just a lot of fun to watch, Lexi and Julia. Finally, the men's finals. Number 2 seeded Trevor Crabb and Phil Dalhausser taking on Hagen Smith, Logan Webber. I already said Hagen Smith has nobody's profile rose more in the 2025 AVP season than Hagen Smith. I think that's pretty fair to say. Hagen Smith, the ability to put pressure on you from the service line, the ability to dig balls, the ability to swing aggressively. He can just get out of that sand. So Hagen, just that star is rising and rising and rising. And all the credit to Logan as well. Logan's been great. Logan's been great at the net. Logan's been great from the service line. So Smith and Webber putting together their best season so far by a wide margin. Trevor Crabb, Phil Dalhausser, what's left to say about them? Both guys are just side-out problems. Who do you serve on that team? Phil, at age 45, you're going to serve him? I don't think so. So you're serving at one of the guys who's been probably one of the best, if not the best, at siding out in the men's side in the United States over the last 10 years in Trevor Crabb. And a guy that just wins and wins consistently. And 2 guys that were in the Manhattan Beach Open Finals 2 weeks ago. They find themselves back in the finals in Chicago. And Trevor Crabb and Phil Dalhausser win that first set, 15-12. Second set, we're 14-11. Phil has a service error to make it 14-12. So we got a 3-point lead that goes to a 2-point lead here. Logan back to serve. I just said Logan can do it from the service line. Logan's jump float there has been a problem for teams. Logan has an ace at Phil to make it 14-13. Was it going to be out? You make the call. I'll put that clip in here so you can watch it. I think it was going to be in. The commentators, Kevin, KB, and Rich, didn't think so, I don't think. But Logan serves it aggressively at Phil, gets the ace to make it 14. Now we're only down 1. Logan has this spectacular chase down at 14-13. I'm sure you've seen the clip now. You can go to my socials. It's up on there. We were hanging out here doing the watch along. You can go to AVP socials. I'm sure they had this clipped. Logan with a chase down, gets it up. Hagen with the free ball just buys Logan enough time to get back to the net. Phil, Trevor, Phil hits into the net. And we are tied up at 14 apiece. Smith and Webber back in it. Phil, Trevor, nervous for the first time in the entire match. 14-14 second set, they are nervous. They take their timeout. They come out of their timeout. Logan has a service error to make it 15-14 and to give the other team a championship point. And then what happens? What do you think happens? Phil serves it. Phil gets to the net. He gets a block on Logan. And Phil Dalhausser, at age 45, after winning 71 AVP championships to date, goes ahead and wins his 72nd at age 45 with partner Trevor Crabb, and they win Season 2 of the AVP League, the AVP Championships in Chicago. Nothing left to say about Trevor Crabb and Phil Dalhausser except that one is the greatest of all time, and the other has been a top 2 or 3 player in the United States for going on 12 years now, anyway, something like that. And that might even be being a little conservative to characterize the play of Trevor Crabb. So the 2 of them win the championships. We found out Phil's unretiring. We found out that the 2 of them are back together for season number 3 of the AVP League. We find out that everybody in the finals is going to get a bye into season number 3. So that's Lexi, Julia, Mel, Brandie. Lexi, Julia, Mel, Brandie, Hagen and Logan, Phil and Trevor all get the byes directly into AVP League season number 3. What do we get for winning the cup? We don't know. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about here a little bit. Some storylines, some final thoughts. AVP did well, I think, to gain some momentum through the tail half of the season. The critics became more vocal over the course of the summer of 2025, which in my mind is probably a good thing. You know, when the haters come out, that's when you know people are listening, people are watching, and people are having feelings. I don't know if it was Howard Stern, but it was a famous radio host once said, if they hate you, they'll listen for 45 minutes. If they like you, they'll listen for 15 minutes. And you know those haters, those very vocal haters of the AVP, are watching. They claim they're not, but you know they are. And they're volleyball fans, right? So I think AVP did a really good job to gain some momentum here over the back half of season 2. One of those things that led to that, I think, was picking Central Park as a venue. Bringing volleyball to New York City, bringing volleyball back to the Northeast that has a vibrant volleyball community. That was huge. Reportedly coming out of All Volleyball Substack, credit Larry Hamill here through conversations with Robert Corvino, commish of the AVP. Shout out, Bobby. 570,000 viewers for that CBS broadcast on July 20th from Central Park. Iconic backdrop, great teams on the sand, an opportunity to grow the sport, and you get 500,000 eyeballs on your sport middle of the season in Central Park. An awesome moment for beach volleyball there. They've continually adapted and improved the appearance and quality of their product. They've done a better job picking venues and shooting those venues better, I think, in season number 2. They have they changed the men's women's championships to be separate gender, which was a big criticism coming out of season number 1. So the AVP has been willing to make changes, willing to listen to the critics, and willing to adapt and to grow their sport. The League Cup, I think, as a result of separating the men's and women's, the League Cup lacked some luster. Week number 8 in Dallas, there were storylines. There were Launch had to win all 4. There was a lot of juice there as far as who's going to win this AVP League Cup. Those games weren't that meaningful. They didn't feel meaningful. They weren't presented as meaningful, and I don't think the fans were really that into winning the AVP League Cup. And I think that comes down to what's the cup mean? You know, and in the first year of anything, that's going to be tough to create the value of, say, a Manhattan Beach Open, getting the name on the pier. 70 years of tradition going into Manhattan Beach. Year number 1, you're never going to get that. What would help is us knowing what's at stake. Going into week 8 in Dallas, the Launch had to win 4 in a row to get the AVP League Cup. Well, if they do that, what do they win? As fans, we want to know that. And what's at stake for money? What's at stake for league season number 3? Did both those teams that won cups get buys? Did the winners of the League Cup get buys into season number 3 of the AVP League for winning that AVP League Cup, the regular season title? We don't know. Was there money at stake there? We don't know. I think the AVP would do well by itself to publicize what is at stake for the AVP League Cup, or else that doesn't mean anything. And I think they're trying to make that mean something because that team mentality, I think, is important to them. That's what they're trying to grow. That's what they're trying to build. That's what they're trying to sell is teams. So to keep that team mentality, that AVP League Cup needs to mean something. It didn't really mean much to the fans, I don't think, here in season number 2. I think that's something that the AVP League can do to improve here as we head towards season number 3. All signs point towards season number 3 happening. I think Phil retiring tells you that for sure. I think unretiring, I don't think Phil unretires without a conversation with AVP League management, finding out what the plan was and deciding if he wants back in or does not. So AVP League season number 3 is going to happen, whether you like it or not. And I think that's a good sign for the buy-in of this ownership group and of this management group. Because I think it's easy to come up with a concept, try it out for a calendar year, 2 seasons, and say this ain't working, we're not making money. Because I don't think they're probably making much money now. If I had to guess, I wouldn't say that there's a huge financial boon of running this league. But the vision is long-term, right? So if you have an ownership group that's willing to stick it out through the tough seasons to get to their ultimate goal, that's got to be a good thing if you're an AVP League fan, if you're an AVP fan, I think. The health and the investment of that management group, that's a big deal. If you're a fan of tournaments, like the Manhattan Beach Open, like the Huntington Beach Open, I think you could argue that a few extra tournaments throughout the course of the season would be a good thing. The buzz around the Manhattan Beach Open certainly far exceeded the buzz out of any of the AVP League week stops, week 1 through week 8. It's not comparable. And again, you got 7 years of history versus 370 days of history. So it's not going to, but we need to do something to start to equalize that, right? The AVP League and the AVP in itself is special because it's got an attitude towards it, right? So if you're a die-hard beach volleyball fan, and if you're watching this, I assume that you are, you're familiar with the Beach Pro Tour. You're familiar with the elites and the challenge events, and you're familiar with Stade and Ostrava and Montreal and Hamburg, all these events with the best teams in the world happening over the course of the last month and a half. And if you've watched that, you know that's the best players in the world playing at the highest level. So starting right there, that's a great thing to have, right? And the AVP has some of that. On the women's side, they certainly have that. On the men's side, maybe a little less so. That said, the AVP still has something that the Beach Pro Tour does not, and it's kind of an intangible. It's kind of like a juice to it, or a buzz to it, or an attitude to it. You know, you watch the Taylors play, and there's just an attitude and a juice there that the Beach Pro Tour does not have, and it would love to have it, and it's tries to have it. You know, it's brought in Travis and Kyle over the last year or so. They're doing more sideline stuff. They're doing more interactive stuff, but the juice isn't there like it is with the AVP, and I think a lot of you would agree with me on that, the AVP fans. All that said, the AVP League has been a step down as far as the juice and the buzz from the traditional AVP tournaments. Manhattan Beach Open, Hermosa, Huntington, Chicago, Atlanta, all the ones we used to get back in the day. The AVP needs to figure out what it was that sets the old AVP above the Beach Pro Tour and figure out a way how to minimize that gap between the league and that old school tournament style. And the tournament people want you to scrap the league and go back to the tournaments. And the ownership group's not going to do that because they got 2 years invested and they have a plan here. But the AVP would do well to take a look at those tournaments and take a look at the old format of the AVP and see why it was so much better as a product than the Beach Pro Tour and figure out a way to just narrow that gap. You're not going to get there. You're not going to reach the Manhattan Beach Open as far as buzz and interest goes. As I said, 70 years of history of the Manhattan Beach Open, the granddaddy of them all, potentially the best tournament in the world, right up there with Stade and world champs and the Olympics. You're not going to get that with AVP League, but you got to reduce that gap. You got to figure out a way to get that attitude, that juice for your AVP League stop week number 7 in Houston. You got to figure out a way to narrow that gap between that old school AVP buzz juice style attitude. And I think the AVP needs to look at that, and I think they need to work towards narrowing that gap come season number 3. And I think mixing in a couple of tournaments and having those tournaments somehow funnel into the league makes a lot of sense. I mean, the AVP, admittedly, I think went with low-budget tournaments to start the season. All in Huntington Beach, 2 qualifiers, and then their Open, which was a single elimination. Really hard to call the Huntington Beach Open an actual Open, though I guess it was technically. Not a lot of juice behind that event. So the AVP needs to figure out a way to narrow that gap, I think, between the league and the tournaments, mix in some tournaments, and figure out a way to incorporate them better, I think, with that ongoing cycle of a league, which happens year after year. We'll talk plenty more about this over the course of the offseason. We now have 6 months of just Beach Pro Tour, as well as speculation on what the AVP is going to do. We'll get you news, partnership changes, all that stuff as soon as we have it. Make sure you follow along here and Bet the Beach on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, all the above. Give us a follow, give us a like. It really helps us. We've been able to grow over the course of the last couple of years, and we've had a lot of fun doing it, and we hope to continue to do that as we look towards the 2026 season, and then ultimately what's going to become a very fun couple of year run up to LA 2028 and the Olympics. So keep it locked and loaded. Give us a like and give us a subscribe. We'll continue to update you through the course of the off season. We'll do some fun stuff too. We'll play some beach volleyball blast. We'll do the off-season simulated invitational again. We'll do the off-season show when the Beach Pro Tour finally wraps up. And until then, I thank you for joining. I thank you for watching. I thank you for following along. And we'll see you next time. Peace.
Wake up, sunshine, let's go play. Beach volleyball is the way. Sand in my toes, sky so blue. Fun in the sun, just me and you. Bounce on the beach, set the ball high. Smiles all around and we reach for the sky. Surfs up and laughter's in the breeze. Join the podcast if you please. Having in, watch us fly. Under the sun we feel so high. Spike and surf, hear the cheer. Every day is summer here. no play. Beach volleyball is the way. Sand in my toes, sky so blue. Fun in the sun, just me and you. Bounce on the beach, set the ball high. Smiles all around when we reach for the sky. Surfs up and laughter's in the breeze. Join the podcast if you please. Dive and dig, watch us fly. Under the sun we feel so high. Spike and surf, hear the cheer. Every day is summer here. Dig, watch us fly. Under the sun we feel so high. Spike and surf, hear the cheer. Every day is summer here.